Alright, Racing Tips Part 1.5, Basic Game Mechanics and some Vendor Recipes. So in the first video for Racing Tips that I made, some people made some comments about how I left some details out on what I was doing at certain points in the video, or they were asking why or how I was doing things the way I was doing, and what it came down to was most of it was just some basic game mechanics that people aren't aware of. So in this video I'm going to be covering info that most people probably already know. Like I said, it's very, very basic core game mechanics, but these are questions that probably are some of the most asked questions in racing streams during like race seasons and whatnot. So let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to go over is the power of control clicking. And when I say that, I mean literally you hold down control and you left click for things. And there's three real big uses for it. First one being on your passive tree. Normally if you just regularly click on a node, you have to click up here, apply, and if you're racing, that's a waste of time. You don't want to click twice, but if you hold control and you click, it auto confirms it for you, auto applies the point, you can get out of your passive tree real fast. Also with vendors it works, especially when buying gems. So say I was a level 1 character, I need to buy my Molten Strike, you can drag it in, again that takes time, or you hold down control, auto throws it into your inventory. Same thing for quest rewards, you can either drag it in or you can hold control, and all of those just speed up the process of what you're trying to do, saves you a little bit of time here and there, and just makes the whole playing through a little bit more smooth. The second thing I don't really use very much myself, let's put it over here, is move only key bindings. So you'll see, like, if you're just starting off and you're running through your coast and you're trying to juggle your gems, you need to either keep clicking, which for a lot of newer players can be awkward, or you like stutter like this and then you move and then you stutter. But if you set move only to a button that is not left click, because if it's on left click you can't move with anything in your hand. If you set it to Q, I can pick this up and now I can keep walking around even though there's an item on my hand, and it won't drop it unless I use left click. So that helps a lot for people trying to manage their inventory, especially early on while they're running around. Having an extra key to move, and you don't really need all your hotkeys anyway. Third thing, boss kill waypoints. So there's some bosses in the game, most of the ones where you kill a boss and then the zone right after the boss has a waypoint and it's like a major story boss. You usually get that waypoint for free. There's three notable examples that are really useful in racing, that being Brutus, Mervale, and Vol. When you kill Brutus, you don't have to run to the exit. You can log out immediately, and then when you do that, usually you'll get back into town and you go get your quest rewards and whatnot. You can immediately just port straight to Prisoner's Gate. You get the waypoint for free. Just like you also get the Southern Forest waypoint for free when you kill Mervale, and you get the City of Sarn waypoint for free when you kill Vol. And all three of those bosses, you'll see races a lot of the time log out when they kill the boss. It saves a portal scroll if you have one, and then it saves time from running to the next zone if you need to make a town visit anyway. But for the later bosses in the game, like Acts 4, 5, and 6, I'm not actually sure which bosses for the newer Act 5 and beyond give a waypoint after you kill them, but you generally are going to ignore it anyway, because at that point you have extra portal scrolls, so you're not really, low on portals that you have to worry about, and you have heralds or other auras on that you're going to have to recast if you use the logout strategies. So for those ones, you're either going to just run straight to the next zone or you're going to portal out anyway. Fourth thing, vendor searching. So a while ago they added the ability to search for the vendor. You can search for, something like Scepter or whatever. But it's really useful early on, especially in the case of looking for movement speed boots. I'll show it in a second, and for gems. But one thing that a lot of people don't know that do know this exists, there's actually a hotkey. If you open up the vendor window and you press Control F, you can see it automatically lets me start typing without having to click into the box. And then also you can paste into the box. So at the start of a race, what you'll see some people do is they'll copy like the word move or the word movement, and then they'll open their vendor window and you can really quickly Control F, Control V, and now you have anything with movement is going to be highlighted. You'll see these shields, but then more importantly you will see that you can get some boots. I believe I have a pair in here. They will be highlighted so that way you don't have to mouse through everything while you're searching for it. guess you'll see stallions, satin slippers. You can just buy them right away. You don't have to mouse through all the other boots. One thing though that you do have to take note of for this is when you press Control F, Control V, or you just type in general, you can't use your arrow keys left and right. Normally that's how I'm tabbing through these vendor windows, is my arrow keys. So you have to type and then click off of the text box so you can use your arrow keys to tab back through. But that will save you a lot of time, and then especially when, say, you're looking for gems, not necessarily in Act 6, but let's say you just killed, you know, Brutus and you're going back to town, you want to get a MAME gem for your totem to help your boss DPS, but you don't know where MAME is on the vendor. You don't know exactly what the gem looks like. I don't know what the gem looks like. You can type, you know, the gem name in. So you would open it up, Control F, MAME, and then you can just buy the gem way faster. That'll save you a lot of time while you're trying to learn the exact gem positions on the vendors. And finally, the last thing, basic, not really a game mechanic, but just a little bit of advice that I found very helpful, is loop filters. It doesn't matter what loop filter you use, the big thing is you want important items to stand out, and you want items that you know you need, but you tend to miss them or tend to ignore them. You want to make those stand out, but the best thing you can do is make anything and everything that you probably want to pick up at some point very big font size. That way you don't have to be as precise with your clicks. You can be a little off target, miss the item by a little bit, and you're still going to pick it up because they just have huge fonts. But as far as filters go, I have made a couple up-to-date filters. There's still a little bit of works in progress. I have one for melee Sunder builds, and I have one for caster, firestorm totems, flame blast totems. I have those two filters. I will post them in the description. Like I said, they're mostly finished. They work very well, but there's probably some tweaks that could be made, but I will post them for anybody who wants to see them. And then that's it for the game mechanic stuff. But we still got some more things to go over, and that is vendor recipes. So there's 4 or 5 really vendor recipes that you see a lot in racing, and I have all the items here. I'm going to go over them. If you're not aware, there is on the PoE wiki, you can search for vendor recipes. There's a huge list. There's a ton of different ones, but these are the ones that you'll see a lot in racing. First 2 are going to be for melee builds or bow builds, basically the attack builds. The most important one probably being the whetstone recipe. If you have quality weapons, it doesn't matter how many, but what matters is their total quality has to add up to 40% or higher. So this is a 15, a 10, a 9, and a 10. So that goes over 40. When you sell them all together to a vendor, you'll get a whetstone. And this whetstone is important because the next vendor recipe is how these melee builds and bow builds are making it so they don't have crappy weapons the whole way through. You're going to make a weapon with a guaranteed physical damage roll. What you need is the whetstone, your weapon, and then either a magic or a rare rustic sash. In this case I'm going to show a rare because it's usually pretty easy to get a rare one by finding an essence somewhere along the way. You get that essence and you use it on your belt. And then you're going to sell the whetstone, the belt, and the axe, and now you have an axe with 52% IPD. Much higher DPS. Next recipe is a little bit less common. You don't really see it very much. I'm going to actually grab one more of these out of here. But if you get the crazy runs, they happen at times where you might find 3 or 4 quicksilvers, and you start to think they're useless. You can actually vendor a pair of boots, assuming you don't have move speed yet, a pair of white boots, a quicksilver flask, and an augment, and you will get a pair of 10% move speed boots. Or alternatively, what you can do is you can vendor any pair of, I believe, magic boots. It may work with rare boots with some set of move speed, and then the same thing, quicksilver plus augment, and it'll go up to the next tier of move speed. So you see this one goes from 10 to 15, and that's just a good way if you're for some reason getting lots of quicksilvers but you're not getting move speed boots, which it happens rarely. You can actually force your way into some boots, and it's actually very convenient since you can pick what sockets you have. You can wait for a pair of 4-link boots to drop, or 3-link early on, and you get your sockets and you get the move speed. Next 2 recipes are caster, I guess next 3 recipes are for caster racing. The first one being how to make elemental resist rings. You can make one for every res. It's more important for lightning and fire res rings because they don't drop early anymore. You can see ruby ring requires level 16. You can't even find these in Act 1. But an iron ring plus matching gem colors. So red gems will give you a ruby ring. Green gems will give you can see here a topaz ring. Those are the two that you'll see more. You don't really see people make sapphire rings, but if you use a blue gem, you will get a sapphire ring. And these rings are important because you're going to want them to make your +1 to level of gems weapons. Fire gems or lightning gems generally. So this one's going to be a +1 fire gem. What you need is a magic wand. Ideally you're going to look for one with your links. In this case it's a red, blue, blue, because we're going for spell totem, firestorm, plus whatever support goes here. It'll either be like added lightning, and then at level 18 you probably replace it with controlled destruction. But you want to know your colors, and it has to be a magic wand plus the ring plus an alteration, and it becomes +1 to socketed fire gems. And that's about the strongest mod you can get generally for a weapon early on. The new flat to spells weapons can be a little bit better, but they're so rare that you always want to plan around getting a weapon like this, your +1 weapon, as early as possible. And then there's a new recipe as of 3.0 that lets you get +1 chaos gems, which is kind of changed the racing meta, where chaos spells used to be really bad. Now they're pretty good because this recipe is actually even easier than the +1 for fire, cold, or lightning. And that is all you need. You need a magic wand again, but you do not need a ring, and you do not need an alteration. All you need is a gem with the chaos tag. So if I sell this and this, I now get a +1 to level of socketed chaos gems, and you can use that for your blight and your contagion and your essence strain if you are trying to do a race on those builds. And it gives those builds a lot of power. Since you can get that kind of recipe, you can generally complete it before Brutus. These ones don't really get completed until the end of Act 1 normally. But that's it. 5 easy vendor recipes. You got your rings. I guess 6 vendor recipes. Whetstones, weapons, 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 and all those other basic mechanics. So yeah, just kind of tack this onto the first video. Just goes over some basic stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope the information was useful. And I will see you next time.